Okay folks, so we're back working here on our OnShape compass project, and already we've gone through the setup of our OnShape account. We've looked at making part 1, the compass leg, and we've now moved on to part 2, so the top of the compass. So step 1 would be to create a new part studio. So select the plus sign on the bottom left corner of the screen, select new part studio, rename the studio and the part compass top. Okay, so it's important just to keep all of this uniform throughout, that you're working in the same studio and that you're using the proper names. So I've called this one compass leg, and I want to now create a new part. So I could go back here into my OnShape and I could create a new document just like we've done at the start to make this shape, but I want to keep everything in the one file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this corner here and I'm going to go create part studio, and we see that part studio 1 now starts to load up. Okay, but I don't want to call it part studio 1, I want to call it compass top. Okay, so it's the top of the compass that we're going to work on today. And once that part is made, we can actually go over here to this part here, just like in the compass leg, and I'm going to call this compass leg here in parts as well. Okay, so that would be step 1. So step 2, sketch this onto the top plane. Ensure the origin is in the correct position, so it's highlighted in orange. Okay, so the origin is highlighted in orange here down in the bottom right corner, and just to make sure that that point is there in your drawing as well. So we have an 8mm line, 5mm up, we have this radius of 4 here, and we have a 2mm line, and then we also have a 5mm line coming back down here. So we need to sketch that shape. So it has said that we want to sketch onto the top plane as well, so I'm going to sketch onto the top plane. I'm going to press sketch, and again it's asking me what plane do you want to sketch onto, so just hit the top plane. I'm going to start by grabbing a line, and I'm going to try to get this close enough to the proper size. So I'm going to zoom in here, and it needs to be 8 across, it needs to be 5 up. Okay, so I'm getting them bang on here so far, but you definitely don't need to get them bang on. So I've done these 2 lines, and after hitting the escape button, because we know it's not a line coming across here, it's actually an arc and then a 2mm line, and the radius of that arc is 4. So I'm actually going to go up here to this drop down menu, and I'm going to choose 3-point arc. So on 3-point arc it says create an arc using 3 points. So click to indicate the starting point, the end point, and then to set the radius. So that's what the 3-click feature. So 1 for the start, 1 for the end, and then 1 for the radius. So I'm going to grab that one, and obviously I want to start here, and I want to end horizontally to it, and the radius is going to be 4mm, but again obviously you just have to be close enough with it. So I have 5mm there, and that's going to be fine for now. I'm going to go back to my line feature, and just finishing off there with a horizontal line and a vertical line back down. Okay, so I'm going to start dimensioning my shape now. So this is the dimension tool, and I'm going to start with my longest measurement. I usually like to start with the longest measurement, and although it says this is 8, we know that's definitely not going to be 8, so it's actually 8.01691, but it's just rounded it up to 8 for me. I can just now change that to 8. This side here needed to be 5, and same idea, it was close to 5 but it wasn't exactly 5, so just make sure that you're changing all your measurements so that they're exactly the proper measurement you want them to be. This is a radius 5.1, we want it to be radius 4. This is 1.9, we want that to be 2, and once we get a fully black shape, that means that it's completely defined, which is exactly what we want our sketches to be. So green tick, that is our step 2 complete. Step 3, select extrude and extrude the shape 30mm to create a 3D solid. So we're going to extrude in that shape 30mm. That's pretty easy. We can go up here to our features, extrude. So it's asking for faces and sketch regions to extrude. That would be this sketch. And by default now it's after extruding it by 25 mil. I want to increase that measurement, so you can either hit the up button like this. You could also grab this arrow, which is actually not very accurate, so don't do it like this. You'll obviously have to be playing around to try to get it exactly at 30. You could, but the easiest way to do it, I find, is just to type in 30. Green tick. Okay, so we have this kind of shape here now. And just bear in mind that the shape we're trying to get here is this top of the compass. Okay, so we have a small bit of a started, but we want to go and move on to part 4 now. So select mirror and then select part mirror. So we're actually going to mirror this whole part. Select add. Entities to mirror would be the extrude from step 3, so the extrude we just created. The mirror plane would be the yellow face highlighted. So we're going mirroring across this yellow face here and select merge with all. Okay, so there's a lot of information there. Let's try to complete that step. So here's my shape, and I'm going to go up here to the mirror tool. So looking for that, and we find it here. And straight away it's giving me mirror part, and that's what I want to mirror. I want to mirror the part. We could mirror the feature, but it just doesn't turn out proper. They seem to break up into different parts when you're mirroring the feature, but I want to keep it all as one part, so I'm mirroring part and I'm going to add. Okay, entities to mirror would be this one here, this whole entity. The mirror plane is going to be this face here, as was highlighted with yellow, and we can see now that it's after flipping across, and I want to merge with all. Okay, so that's merging the two results together into one main part. Okay, which is exactly what I want to do. And I can green tick that there. We can see now there's no line in between them, that they're all the one part now. Okay, so that would be mirroring that shape. And we're more or less doing the exact same step again, but apart from mirroring, we're not just mirroring this piece now, we're mirroring that whole part again across this face. Okay, so similarly to step 4, select mirror and sketch part, or select part mirror. Select add. Entities to mirror will be the new merged extrude, which is this one here, and the mirror plane would be the yellow face highlighted. Select merge with all. So very similar to the last step that we just completed. So going up here to mirror again, mirroring part, adding part, entities to mirror, and you're going to be able to select this whole thing here now. Mirror plane is going to be this face as highlighted in the drawing, and we're going to merge in with all again. So merging that whole thing together. Green tick. So here now we have this shape, which would have been a small bit more difficult to draw all as one, so we would have had to draw all these lines and all these curves. You definitely could have done that, but I thought it was an easy way to do it, was just to draw it once, flip it across here, and then flip the whole thing across here as well. So we get a shape like that. Okay, step 6. So click normal to the right plane. Sketch this shape on the flat surface. Dimension the sketch, and using the extrude remove feature, make a cut through all. Okay, so we see we have a rectangle here that is 4 mil down from the top, 2 mil in from this edge, 2 mil in from this edge, and 6 mil altogether. So we can definitely draw that. So the first thing they're asking is go normal to the right, which we can just click here. Normal to the right. And I'm going to start by drawing a sketch, and it's asking me now what do I want to sketch onto, and it says that we want to sketch onto this flat surface. So make sure we're sketching onto this, and I'm going to sketch in a corner rectangle, and my corner rectangle is going to be on this line, and I'm just going to bring it up here approximately to where I want it to be. So that's my rectangle now, and it's a matter of dimensioning it. So from here to here, we know from the question it's going to be 4. Okay, we know that from here to here is going to be 2, and we know that the length of this line is going to be 6. Okay, Okay, and again, a fully dimensioned shape will turn black like that. So OnShape now knows exactly where each of them lines is, exactly where that rectangle should be. So green tick once we're finished that. The next thing it wanted me to do was to extrude remove that. So there's no extrude cut feature in OnShape like there is in SolidWorks, but if you go to extrude, it's all under this extrude category. So instead of a new or an add, we're going to go remove. So we're actually removing a solid, and we're going to remove this section here. And we can go either through all or up to next, but we'll get the same result. Okay, more or less cutting through that whole shape. Green tick. And we see now we've made that cut. Okay, that's step 6 complete. And there's a small bit of information there for you to look at as well. Step 7. Click normal to the top plane to look at the shape in the plan view. Okay, so we're looking at the plan of the shape now. Draw this sketch on the top surface of the shape. So we see that that's centered, make sure it's centered, and extrude the shape by 3 millimeters to create a small cylindrical shape. So we're extruding now, we're not extrude removing. And we're going to extrude this diameter of 9 circle 3 mil out of this top surface. So go normal to the top, looking at the plan. And this is why it's helpful now to have the origin bang in the middle of the shape. So we've actually mirrored everything around the origin. So it's actually quite helpful now, because when we go to sketch onto this surface and we go to sketch circle, it's very easy to find the center point there. We can dimension that circle to be 9 mil. Green tick once we're finished sketching, and we can go to extrude. And I'm going to extrude this now by 3 mil to make this cylindrical shape coming out at the top of it. Okay, go normal to the top again, and we'll move on to step number 8. So similarly to step 7, click normal to the top plane, draw this sketch on top surface. So we have a radius of 3.5 circle this time. Make sure that both circles are concentric. So concentric circles would be circles with the same center point. Extrude the circle by 22 mil to create a long cylindrical shape. Okay, so going here to sketch again, sketching onto this top surface of the cylinder. Make sure not to sketch onto this surface here. We're sketching onto the top of the cylinder. So if you're looking at that cylinder, we're sketching onto the top of it here. And we're going to sketch in a circle. So make sure the circles have the same center point, which is the origin, and has a diameter of 7, or a radius of 3.5. And we're going extruding that now by 22 millimeters. So make sure we're extruding this surface rather than this outside surface. We won't get the proper result if we're extruding out here. Extruding in here, and we're extruding it by 22. And that creates now a long cylindrical shape. Okay, perfect. So we can see now that our part is starting to come together nicely. Fillet the cylinder created in step 7 with a radius of 2 millimeters. So that would be this first cylinder that we created. This first one here. And we're being asked to fillet that. So go to the fillet feature, entities to fillet, make sure that it is this edge you're choosing, and a radius of 2. So we're going to get a nice fillet on it like that. Green tick. Okay, step 10. Click normal to the top plane. On the top surface of the cylinder created in step 8, which is this long one here. So on the top surface of the cylinder created in step 8, draw this sketch. So we're given a sketch here to draw. Select extrude, remove, and remove 22 millimeters of material from the cylinder as shown. So it's hard enough to see it here, but we've actually removed a slit down here. And to draw that slit, all we're doing is drawing a triangular shape here with a 90-degree angle, and each of the sides of the of these two sides of this angle are 0.5 millimeters. So to do that, looking straight in at the top of it, zoom in, and I'm going to use this plane here as a reference point, and I'm going to go sketch. So sketching onto the top surface, a line. And I'm going to the edge of the shape here, and I'm going to bring it in to the center line like this, make sure it's in the center line, and bring it back down to the edge again. And that's actually all we need to draw. So I'm going to dimension that now. This one was 0.5, so 0.5, and this edge here was 0.5 as well. Now we see that that is still blue, so there's a dimension that we're missing, and that would be this angle here in between the two of them. So click this line here and this line here, and you should get this angle feature, and we want the angle there to be 90 degrees. And we see now our shape has turned black, which means it's fully defined, so we can green tick that. We're going to go up to extrude now, and we're being asked to extrude this surface inside here. Okay, and we're removing it, so click remove first, then extrude, and we're removing 22 mil of material. So if you remember, we extruded by 22, now we're extrude removing by 22, and we're going to extrude remove this slit down here now. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, so that was step 10. Step 11. Select the feature circular pattern. This can be found in a drop down menu beside linear pattern, so the icon is shown. Select feature pattern. Features to pattern will be the extrude remove created in step 10. The axis of pattern is the circumference of the cylinder created in step 8. The instant count of the pattern is 28. Select equal spacing and green tick once you're finished. Okay, so a lot of information there. So the first thing we want to do is to find this linear pattern and find the drop down menu beside it to get circular pattern. So linear pattern is this one. We don't want that, we want circular pattern, so we're going to drop down to circular pattern. And now we have a lot of information that we want to fill in into this box. So the first thing is feature pattern. So we want it to be a feature pattern. We don't want it to be a part pattern. A part pattern would pattern all the parts, whereas we only want to pattern this cut feature here. So it's not even letting me choose this cut feature until I change it to feature pattern. Now I can start hovering over these features. So features to pattern would be the extrude, cut, or remove. So we can just click that. That's the extrude here, and that turns yellow once we hover over it. The axis of pattern is the circle that is on, so this circumference here could be our axis. Okay, so we see now that the instances is the amount of times it's going to pattern this shape around this circle. So we can start increasing it by pressing the up button, and once we have equal spacing clicked, there's always going to be an equal space between all of these patterns. Okay, so it doesn't really matter how many instances we have, but I have mine as being 28. So when I hit 28 here, it's going to fill that whole shape with these patterns. And I can actually see here that there's a bit of a flat surface left over. So if I don't want that flat surface to be left over, I can start increasing that until I get a point like that. So now I think that's nearly the most that I get fit in that, and when you go over that you can see that it's not possible to create that pattern anymore. So that would be the most, but I have it there that I have a bit of a flat surface left on it, which is fine. Okay, green tick once that's finished. So that's the circular pattern, and it saves us a lot of grief. If you wanted to say sketch that out, you could be a long time doing that. All you need to do is do one extrude and then pattern the extrude. So it's a nice feature to know. Step 12, create a plane 8 mm away from the front plane running parallel to it. Select plane entities will be front plane, and offset will be 8 mil. So this is our plane feature, and I want to do it. I'm going to use this front plane as a reference. So I'm going to go to plane, and entities will be this front plane that I'm talking about. And we see now that that pushes a plane 25 mil away from that front plane. I'm going to change this to 8, and now I have a plane called plane 1 that is 8 mil in front of that front plane. And I'm going to now hide everything apart from that plane, so we can see where that is now. Okay, and when I go normal to the front plane, I'm actually normal to plane number 1 as well. Okay, so that's step 12. Step 13, sketch this shape onto the plane created in step 12, so plane 1. Select extrude remove, end type will be through all to make a cylindrical cut through the whole shape. Okay, so we see here that we have a circle of diameter 2. That's 9 mil down from this line here. So this line I think is going to be a reference in the extrude cut that we made earlier. So if you want to do it from here, it's going to be an extra 9, so it's going to be 13 altogether if you're going from the top. But if you can manage to grab this line, it's going to be 9 mil. It is also 3 mil in here, and it is a diameter of 2. Okay, so let's try to draw that. So I'm going to go sketch onto this plane here, and I'm going to sketch in my circle. So I'm just going to sketch it where I think it's going to be about here to start with. And I'm going to see now if I can dimension it. So from the center point to the top is going to be 13. Okay, but if you can grab this line here, I think it's actually this point, you can make it 9 mil. So 13. Okay, from here to here is going to be 3 mil. And the diameter is 2. And just to check that, from here to here should be 9 mil. Yeah, and that's a driven dimension, so we don't need to do that. The circle turns black, which means it's fully defined, which means we're finished sketching that, green tick. And we're going to go to extrude. And we're extruding this, but we're going to remove. Faces and regions to extrude will be this one here. And we can now choose how far we want to go through it. And I want to go through all. Okay, so it's going through all of that. And green tick once we're finished, and that doesn't seem to have worked for me, so I'm just going to delete that extrude, and I'm going to try it again. So normal to the front, and I'm going to go extrude, remove this face here, through all, merge scope, and possibly you might have to click on this merge scope part 1 to make sure that it's actually cutting through that. Green tick. Okay, so I have a hole now cut through that part. Okay, and I drew that hole onto the plane that I have here, this plane number 1. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to get this cut over on this side here as well. Okay, so going back here and moving on to step number 14. So select mirror feature, and mirror the cylindrical cut across the right plane. Okay, so going to mirror. Instead of part mirror, so part mirror would be mirroring the whole part, I want to choose feature mirror. Feature I want to mirror will be this extrude cut that I just made. And the mirror plane, I can go up here and I'm mirroring it across this right plane. When I mirror it across the right plane, I get it flipped over here to the other side, green tick. Okay, so instead of me sketching 2 circles and extruding them, I've just used the mirror feature. Okay, step 15, similar to step 13, sketch this shape onto the plane created in step 12, so plane number 1. Select extrude remove. In this instance, the end type will be blind 3 mil, cutting into the shape. This will create a hole for the pins to slot into later. Okay, so we have a very similar sketch, 3 mil in as always, 13 down like we had the last time, but the only difference is that this diameter is just a mil bigger. Okay, and we're going to cut in 3 mil this time. So normal to the front plane, I'm going making a sketch onto this plane number 1, and I'm going to sketching a circle. So I can zoom in here, and I'm going to try to draw it here nearly on the center point. It's not letting me click it, which is fine, and I'm going to dimension it. So from here to here is going to be 13. Okay, from here to here is going to be 3, and the diameter is going to be 3. So we see now it's just a concentric circle, but that the radius is just a small bit bigger. Green tick, and I'm going to extrude remove 3 mil and merge scope with that shape. Green tick, and we see now that we've just cut in a small bit more, and there's going to be a pin that fits into that later on. Okay, similar to step 14, select mirror feature, and mirror the cylindrical cut across the right plane. So again, I'm just mirroring this cut, and I could have done it that I mirrored both features at the same time. I just happened to do it this way. So mirror, feature is to mirror would be the extrude, mirror plane is going to be the right plane, and we see that that just flips that across. Flips that cut across there. Okay, so our shape now is really coming together. And there's plenty of ways you could have made this shape. This is just the way I went about making it. Okay. Okay, so step 17 then, which is the final step, is edit appearances and change the color to a color of your choice. The document will auto-save. Okay, so it always auto-saves. You can go here now to the appearances panel, double click on this original color, which is this one, and I can just change that. So I'm going to change it to this kind of dark grey here. Green tick, and that now is the top of my compass complete. So the last thing I'm going to do here is just look in here at isometric. I'm going to hide plane 1 because I don't like seeing that when I click into my part, and I'm going to right click over here and I'm going to go rename. I'm going to call that compass top. Okay, so if I have it named here, I'm pretty sure that when we go into the bill of materials later on, that it has this part named, so we don't have to go back and name them all. So we can just call it compass top here, and compass top here, and compass leg here, and compass leg here. Okay, and once we leave that document is going to auto save. Okay, so that is how to do the compass top. In the next video we'll be looking at the lead wheel, the lead holder, the lead and the spike. So we'll be hopefully doing 4 pieces all in one video. But for now, that is the compass top. If you have any questions, just send me an email or a message, and I hope you found this helpful.